So today we are actually talking about our culture, and we are talking about the Maasai culture. And you'll notice that any culture, whether it is whatever culture you come from, whether it is Meru, Kikuyu, Kalenjin, there's actually some symbolism in terms of the beads, in terms of the clothes. For example, we wore as Africans. There was also things like this fimbo that was actually a symbol of a particular status, and like for example, even the beads, they were symbolic. So, for example, in the Maasai culture, which we're talking about today, we find, for example, the issues of the shuka, or even the issues of the colors. For example, if you look at the various colors, like for example, beads were actually an economical source for women. Beading was actually done just by women. The men went out there to be able to be. Remember, they are the pastoralist people, so the men would actually go for protection. They would go to war. They would actually go and graze the animals, right? So in that sense, beading was an African, was a woman's thing, right? So and the beads were symbolic in terms of the social status, whether somebody was their marital status, their age set, their basically even their social group. There is a way you would actually, for example, it was actually symbolic of even your status, or the social status in the society. So people would actually be able to know by the symbol, by what you're wearing, by our clothes, by maybe the shuka, by maybe, for example, these rungus. Yeah, so somebody would actually be able to understand maybe the social status, if you are married or unmarried. For example, the Morans would actually, if you wear a particular bead, like for example, if you notice this particular bead, like for example, the way it is round in color, it actually tells if the girl was married or not. So the Moran would actually be able to approach them. So this particular necklace, for example, this particular necklace was actually as a communication. Like for example, the women wore this, and for example, if it was a Moran, they would be able to understand. For example, was the girl even betrothed, right? So if, for example, if you look at this particular bead, he actually it has three strings. There's a white, there's a blue, and there's always a black, and all of them was actually significant. This particular one, for example, was for somebody who was betrothed, for example, or somebody who was actually meant to be somebody's wife, because remember they kept brides among themselves. So what would happen? Another Moran would actually have come and put a spear, right? Basically, which was a symbol that this one is taken. They would put a spear in front of the girl's manyata, right? So that was actually to tell the other Morans that this one is already taken. So this, for example, this one was worn by a bride. Yes, so the bride, basically what this means is, for example, the round shape basically is actually the shape of the homestead. This is the farthest. This side is the farthest part of the field and the fence. That is the farthest part of the fence, and you can see it is actually colored in white and black. And black and white clearly are actually symbolic, because if you look at black, of course, was a symbol of the people. Were also white was a symbol of purity, and it was also a symbol of the milk. We'll go into details about the colors, but the necklace was basically, it represented that the woman wanted to actually show that she represented the whole community, the whole entire manyata, the whole entire homestead, right? Because they built their hearts. Then, of course, the next thing would actually be the hearts. The hearts, of course, were distributed depending on, of course, where the men, where this particular age group, where the women, where the kitchens were, like that. So you can actually see, for example, if you look at the shapes, it was actually almost a description of a homestead, the way a homestead, of, for example, himself. So you can see even the colors were a symbol. For example, if it is fruitfulness, that the girl, wherever she went, should be fruitful. The green, because land, of course, green represents land. So in that sense, you can see by all means the colors were very symbolic. The attires they wore, of course, were very symbolic. If you look at, for example, the red shuka, we are told the reason why, for example, the men would actually wear red shukas. And of course, remember, this is a culture that initially they used to wear whatever leather, but during the exchange and in terms of the early 90s, there was actually that because of the introduction of the Scottish. What happens is now they began to do barter trade, and they gave the Maasai people cotton, and that is how they actually began to actually wear the shuka. And the reason why, for example, you find mostly it's actually red in color, or it's blue in actual sense, is because, for example, red among the Maasais, it was actually believed to be a symbol of courage, bravery, vitality. It was also a symbol of blood. And for example, even in the red savanna, it would actually would camouflage. It would help them to camouflage from predators such as lions, cheetahs, and other animals, or even if it was at war. So in actual sense, you can see the reason why the shuka was actually red in color was for that particular purpose. It was actually a system of camouflaging from the predators, and also a show of bravery and courage. Yes, brevity and courage. Yes, then you can see the colors, which are some of the colors that are predominantly in the Maasai culture is, for example, the blue, the black, the orange, the red, of course. So we look at each color, for example. The red, for example, like we have said, is actually a symbol of courage, right? It was actually a symbol of courage and bravery and vitality. That in actual sense, you can see, remember, for example, even red was also a symbol of unity. Because if there were guests, what would happen is, or even there was any kind of ceremony, whether it was a rite of passage, whether it was a marriage ceremony, or a betrothal ceremony, what would happen? They would actually slaughter a cow. So the red was actually, because they would eat together the blood and the milk and the meat, which the red, of course, and the meat were red, was actually a symbol of unity, that every ceremony actually brought them together. So red for them was actually a symbol of togetherness, of unity. Then of course, and the symbol of blood, of course, which of course, remember when they went out, especially when the men would go out to do grazing, their staple food, of course, is meat, milk, right? So you'd find, for example, there was a special arrow that they'd actually put on this. They would spear. It was actually a special spear. They would spear the cows, right, around the neck, and then, for example, get the blood out, and then they would actually be able to do it to even mix the okra and the blood and the milk. And for example, the okra was actually part of the formulation of the colors. That's how actually the system of, for example, for the Maasai's, the colors blue came about. They would actually mix the okra, for example, and you have seen even in some ceremonies, of course, they will put on the okra, for example, the red color that looks quite reddish on the face. So in actual sense, you can see red was very symbolic and very significant in that aspect. Then we'll talk about the color white. White, for example, actually, of course, is a symbol of energy, and milk. Milk, remember, was the staple food for the Maasais. Maasais actually believed that Engai, or the god, actually created them, and when he caused them to actually land on the mountain, he brought them down from the mountain together with hundreds of cattle. So that's the reason why they believe they believe that actual animals, cattle are sacred to them, that they cannot, for example, live without cattle. So in actual sense, that is the reason why white is very significant and cattle are very significant. But then there is even, for example, they actually used to draw chalk. They would actually draw, there were marks that even, I'm sure even other cultures, actually African cultures used to do that. They would use white chalk to draw protective symbols, protective symbols. There is even another one like for round, like this, like looks like an owl, the way an owl would look. There are others who are actually symbolic. They are protective designs. So you can actually see that's the reason why milk was white was actually a symbol of energy, right? Because it was in that regard, it actually sort of protective energy, right? Then the next one we talk about green. Green, of course, was symbolic of, or significant in terms of land. Remember, land is the one that gave them the animals, the grass to be able to eat, for example. Land is the one that would nourish their cattle. It would nourish, for example, even themselves if they were planted. Green also was symbolic of health, that anything that was healthy was actually in that regard. And also green was a symbol of fruitfulness. Yes? Then blue, we talk about blue. There are different kinds of shades of blue, but in actual sense, if you look at the color blue, basically was the symbol of the sky, yes, which of course provides water, because that is how rain comes down. That it was actually a symbol of energy, yes, and it was also a symbol of the rain, right? It was the symbol of actually provision, right? It was a symbol of provision, because that is where they got the water. The rains came down to be able to actually water the ground or the land, to be able to provide the grass for their cattle. Then you talk about the color yellow, right? There is yellow everywhere. If you look at the Maasai, look at, for example, these beads, they have yellow. So yellow was basically a symbol of the sun, it's only the sun, but it was also a symbol of hospitality. The reason why it was actually a symbol of hospitality is basically because what happens is the mattresses and even the chairs that the guests would actually be given to sleep on or even sit on actually were made of skin hide, right? Or the hide or the skin of a cattle, right? Or animals. So they would actually place it on top, or they would formulate it in such a manner that that is where, for example, the guest would actually be able to sit. So in actual sense, it was almost like a stretching or a way of friendship, right? So it was not only hospitality but also a symbol of friendship. That is where they would actually put up a guest if they came on the mattress that was actually made using those skin hides. Then we'll talk about orange, color orange. Here you can actually see it in almost every aspect in the beads, right? That orange, on the other hand, was also a symbol of generosity. It was a symbol of generosity and, of course, friendship. If you look at, for example, the gourd that the Maasai had, the Maasai, where they would actually give the milk or the staple food to their guests, it was actually orange in color. So, of course, that was offering, when you're offering your guests, you actually offer them in a gourd that was a bit orangish. So that's why it is actually a symbol of hospitality in that aspect. So basically what we are saying is the colors are very symbolic. The colors actually served to camouflage, for example, in various ways, or they actually were symbolic, or they actually had a meaning. For example, like for example, if you look at the black shukas, there are those who actually wear the red ones. There are those who wear the blue ones. Then if you are, for example, in the age set where you have not worn the circumcision right, what happened? You actually wore, the boys wear a black shuka, basically, and the black shuka among the circumcised age set basically was worn to help them to for special protection, right? Special protection from Engai, the black god, right? They believe that God was actually a black god, so they would actually wear during the circumcision time. They would actually the men would wear, the young boys would actually wear a black shuka so that they would be protected from the black god or Engai, right? Then you look at, for example, even the black when they would sacrifice, for example, black bulls. Anytime you had, for example, you went to a ceremony, a Maasai ceremony, and a black bull was slaughtered. Yeah, it was actually made majorly for a particular age set of groups, right? Because, like for example, if you look at even the 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 dark blue, you see, like for example, this dark blue is it seems to be gearing towards is seen as black, right? This, you can compare this blue and this blue. In actual sense, the darker one was actually seen as black, which you look at the Maasai who wore or who still wear a blue kind of shuka, in actual sense, tells us that they were actually married. Even the women who wore blue would tell us that in actual sense they were a particular age set. And of course, the blue, which is seen as a black in the Maasai community, this dark blue, not the blue one, the dark blue was actually was a mark. The reason why the married people, the married men and women wore the dark blue color was basically to signify the sanctity of their marital bond, right? The sanctity of their marital bond. So basically, you can see all the colors in the Maasai culture, and even in your own culture, whichever culture you come from, you just need to be able to research. Actually, was symbolic. So, guys, thank you very much. If you've not subscribed to our channel, please do subscribe for us to learn more, for us to know where we can actually comment. So guys, thank you very much for watching. That's our amazing video. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. So if you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. For more, subscribe, like our channel. We love you guys. Bye.